Faith alone, in Christ alone for eternal life. Thank you so much for that free gift. Thank you, Father God, for truth. Truth is that which is consistent with reality. Thank you for peace. Peace is not an absence of conflict, but peace is knowing that you're with us through the process. Thank you for life. We don't merely exist, we live. And you came that we might have life and have it abundantly, that it might be life indeed. And thank you for freedom. Freedom not to do what we want to do, but to do what is right. And that which is right is that which is consistent with your character. Thank you so much, Father God, Yahweh, Elohim, Adonai, that we can know you. You are our anchor, our advocate, our helper. You are our brother, our captain, our king. You are our maker, our Father, and our friend. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, at this point in time, I have the wonderful privilege of leading a candlelight vigil. It's not only a candlelight vigil, but it's a moment of silence to recognize this. It's appropriate. Many would say it's wise and appropriate to recognize that those who risk their life running to gunfights also meet the reality of that risk and lose their lives, as happened this past week with the Phoenix Police Department. Roughly 3,000 years ago, Elijah found himself on the run. They were after his head. Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Never name your daughter Jezebel, by the way. You don't want to do that. They were after him. Do you know why they were after Elijah? Because he spoke truth to power, and he was in their way, and he was a political inconvenience. And they were after Elijah, and they wanted to kill him. So he's under pressure. He's on the run, and he cries to God for help. Tell me what's going on. And God communicated to Elijah. He didn't communicate through an earthquake. He didn't communicate through a fire. He didn't communicate through a storm. It's fascinating. In the Hebrew, he communicated through the sound of a thin silence. Sometimes we get too busy and we miss what God has to communicate to us. And the biblical pattern of finding how God communicates and what God wants and has to speak to us, get a load of this. It's found in the sound of a thin silence. So we combine that silence with this candle that we're about to light, and that flame, I think it appropriately represents the sanctity of life. Life is dynamic, but it's fragile. We're going to find that out here real soon. There's kind of a breeze blowing, and that candle's going to be lit. Will it go out? Won't it go out? There's no guarantee. That's life. And so in this next moment of time, as we take a moment of silence and recognize the sovereignty of God and the sanctity of life, I think it's appropriate that all of us are here. So shines a good deed in a weary world that you're here. Let's begin. Everyone's candle is now lit. If we would, could we have just a moment of silence as the music plays?
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you very much. Please extinguish your candles, and at the end of the ceremony today, please dispose of them at the points of entry and exit. You'll see where to take that. Thank you very much.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen. Mic on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the President of the Arizona Fraternal Order of Police, Paul Sheldon.
That's appropriate. Thank you all very much. It's so nice to see so many wonderful Arizona Patriots out here tonight. I thank all of you for coming, because I got to tell you, the reason I'm standing up here as the President of the Fraternal Order of Police is to let you know that right now, there's a straight up war happening in our streets, and it's against our police officers. We are currently in a country where we are averaging a police officer getting shot every 22 hours. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. And the only way we fix that is to get good, solid leaders in places where they can make a difference. Here in Arizona, the Fraternal Order of Police represents 9,400 members. Those members all cast their votes and got them sent back to me, and I tallied them up. And it was with great pride that I proudly endorses Kari Lake to be our next United States Senator. Let's keep it great, 48. Love you guys. Thank you for being here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Executive Director of the Arizona Law Enforcement Association, Levi Bolton.
If you don't want to be here all night, you better let me read this. So, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Levi Bolton. I'm the Executive Director, as he stated, of the Arizona Law Enforcement Association. I'm going to stop after a little bit and just speak from the heart, but I'm a retired police officer for the city of Phoenix of 32 years. The gentleman that just left here, he and I are colleagues, and the closest I ever came to getting shot was by him. But he'll tell you the story if you get the good pastor aside. He's a remarkable guy, and there's a lot to be learned from that. I am profoundly honored to be asked to be here tonight representing the Arizona Law Enforcement Association. We represent 38 member groups, most of the folks from small areas and jurisdictions, 5 miles past resumed speed. Those are all mine. But ladies and gentlemen, the landscape of America has changed, and I'm sure you've noticed that. Once upon a time, people used to say, look, there's a police officer. Wow, say hi to him. I actually sat in a briefing one day and listened to a guy talk to his daughter on the phone. She said, Dad, do you mind if I invite you to father-son kind of a thing? And my daughter goes, well, I was going to do the same, but Dad, I need a really big favor, and I hope you're not going to cry. Don't wear your uniform. You think about that just for a moment. They used to be heroes, but you know what? To a person, to a man and a woman, not one moment do they think about what they're about to go into. We only own 50% of the conduct, but you have a right to expect us to be 100% accountable for the outcome. It's a very different landscape. In America, we are 24% down in many jurisdictions on staffing. They have some things that they can't even have a special event without having to call in the National Guard. Do you think for a moment with our open borders and our permissive, whatever you want to call this, administration these days, they're making a lot of promises, but they're not seeing anything. You know, I'm going to take just a moment. Please forgive me. I'm going to be a little ethnic. I am a Republican and been one since I was 16. I'm a Lincoln Republican. I'm a very proud and unapologetic Republican. And I'm here to tell you that I've been promised a pony before, and I'm still waiting for that pony. So I'm telling you, someone much smarter than me once said this, and it kind of resonated when I first met. I'd met Kari Lake before. I'd been on some of the Newsmaker Sunday things with one of her colleagues. And she was a delightful person, very, very impressive. But it was when I met her in a law enforcement context that I couldn't have been more proud of someone who listened, didn't want to talk at me, talk to me, wanted to know what made us hurt, what made us happy, what made us come. Do you know that right now, and I'm not trying to frighten you, but I want to give you a touch of reality, as my colleague just said before he sat down. This is a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not putting butts in seats. Nobody wants to do this job. It's a thankless job. When you have politicians that will throw you so far under the bus you can't see straight, that will do what is politically expedient, that they will make you promises and not do them, because it's easy. A promise costs you nothing. But I'm more interested in what comes out of your mouth than what's behind your letters of your name, but more importantly, the deeds that you promised to get forward. Kari Lake is just such a person. Someone once said, and they're a lot smarter than I am, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way each and every time. America, please wake up. Join the men and women of Azalea and some of my other law enforcement colleagues. Please support Kari Lake. Something as simple as a check mark on a piece of paper can and will make a difference. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the president of the Phoenix Collegiate Sergeants Lieutenants Association and the vice president of AZ Cops, Ben Leuschner.
Red, white, and blue. And when the band plays Hail to the Chief, ooh, they point the cannon at you, no, it ain't me.
Thank you. This is an honor, it really is, and it's great to be in front of a pro-police crowd for once. Thank you. And thank you for all the support for our fallen officers, Zane Coolidge, who was brutally murdered about a week ago. We actually have his funeral coming up next Wednesday. We hope that the public comes to that funeral and they line the streets. Please, if you want to show your support, that's the way to do it because it really hits home for all of us. So I've been a police officer. I'm still a current police officer. I work in a big city that starts with the letter P over here. I've been there for 34 years. I'm honored to represent over 400 supervisors of the Phoenix Police Department, and also I am the vice president for AZ Cops, which represents almost 4,000 police officers throughout the state of Arizona. So one thing I want to talk about real quick and make it more real for everyone, because I think everyone here is pro-police, is why is an endorsement from a group like ours so important? Well, I think it represents the fact that we recognize when a politician is telling the truth and when there's not. So Kari, from the very day that we met her, has demonstrated to us that truth-speaking ability, the way she takes on the media. We've experienced that for our entire careers in law enforcement, where lies are told about us. And then you hear Kari actually getting in front of cameras and taking them on. It's incredible. She's also gone out and actually walked the streets with us. If you haven't seen the video yet on YouTube where she's talking about the homeless solutions she's talking about, those are real solutions where we see it every day. Police officers, we work the streets, so we know it's true. We can solve these problems if we have the right political leadership. There's one elephant in the room I want to address, and I'll be careful on how I say it, because we don't like to talk bad about each other. However, there is a police union out there that endorsed someone else in this race. Someone else who we consider to be anti-police, not supportive of us, until recently, by the way, and who, right after he got that endorsement, I don't know if you heard it, sent that letter off to the Justice Department about, hey, the DOJ doesn't need to be in Phoenix. It's so funny because all these years that DOJ has been here in Phoenix, he never said a word, never said a word. So judge that for what it is. But then one of the things we heard from this other union was, well, our membership is mixed. We were getting mixed signals about who to support. So what did we do? We said, you know what? We should fact check that. So what we did is we sent out a survey to all of our members statewide. And remember, unions, we've got our competitions and stuff, but you know, we're all the same, and our members are all the same, and they think the same. That survey went out with a simple question: who do you support for U.S. Senate? 2 names were on that checklist. 85% of officers, we had 800 respondents. That is a huge sample size. 85% support Kari. And that's big. I mean, I've been a cop for a long time. You can't get 5 cops in the same room that agree on the flavor of, jelly donut to get. I'm sorry, I gotta make a donut joke, but that's big. 85%, that is unheard of for a sample size to come back with that kind of support. And it shows you who the rank and file really support, and that's Kari Lake. And we ask you to do the same because we've strongly endorsed her because we know she tells the truth. So please support Kari. Thank you very much for your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Director of ICE, Tom Homan.
If you like Trump, stand up and give me a yell. Damn right. If you like Kari Lake, give me another yell. Damn right. I won't try to behave myself tonight, but if I offend anybody, I don't really care. On a serious note, to the families of the fallen, God bless you, and I'm sorry for your loss. We're here to back the blue, but I want everybody to remember, the family served too. Just like my family served for 34 years, the wives, the children, the husbands of those that wear the uniform, they serve every day. And when that person makes the ultimate sacrifice, the families make the ultimate sacrifice. So let's not ever forget them. We'll never forget the fallen, and we'll also never forget the family, so God bless them. You know, I started my career as a cop in New York. My dad was a cop, my grandpa was a cop. I always knew I was going to be some sort of cop. I never thought I'd be the director of ICE and the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump, but it happened. Look, I'm here also for the families and the fallen, but I'm also here for Kari Lake. President Trump's going to win in January. And I'm going to run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen. I promised him. He comes back, I come back, we fix this shit, right? But President Trump can only be so successful. I can only be so successful if we don't have the Senate. It's imperative that Kari Lake wins this seat. So we got to control the Senate, right? And I know Kari Lake, I wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't be on the ground 8 hours. I flew in a little while ago. I got to fly on a midnight shift to go to Florida to do a Trump event. And hopefully I can sleep on the plane. But I made this effort because Kari loves law enforcement. Kari will have your 6, Ruben Gallego will not. And let me be frank. I heard the fentanyl mentioned earlier, the Arizona border. Do you know that half of the fentanyl that killed 250,000 Americans comes across the Arizona border? Do you know who the criminal cartels don't want as the senator here? Kari Lake, because she'll help shut the border down. 384 people off the terrorist watch list have snuck across the border. Do you know who don't want Kari Lake to be the senator of Arizona? Terrorist organizations. Terrorist organizations do not want Kari Lake to be the senator. And let's talk about the criminal cartels for a minute. I'm going to talk the same thing I did at the RNC. The criminal cartels of Mexico have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. And that's when President Trump becomes president, he designates them terrorist organization and wipes them off the face of the earth. But we need Kari. Kari knows how to secure the border. I've had numerous conversations with Kari. That's why I was one of the first people to endorse her. She will shut down the border in Arizona, which is going to protect American lives here. It's going to stop the sex trafficking of women and children. They're up 600%. It's going to stop the crime being brought in by migrant crime, as President Trump said. Not every person that comes across that border is a public safety threat, but many are. We got 2.2 million gotaways, people that paid more to get away. They didn't pay less to turn themselves in, get released, get a free plane ticket to the city of their choice, get a free hotel room, get 3 meals a day, get free medical care, and work authorization, the very reason they came here. 2.2 million people paid more to get away. Think about it. Border Patrol's arrested people from 181 different countries. Some of these countries are sponsored terror. I just said we arrested 384. How many 2.2 came from a country sponsoring terror? I guarantee you, if you think it's 0, you're a moron. Something's coming. We need Trump in office. We need Kari in office to take this country back. So God bless you and thank you for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Congressman Burgess Owens of Utah's 4th Congressional District.
Thank you. Tom, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate you. I want to thank you guys. First of all, for those on the front line, we do appreciate you. We know that in order to develop this great community we have, to build this remarkable middle class, we need to feel safe. We need to have those that get on the front line every single day, go out there, and they feel they're going to come back home. But when they don't, we have to make sure we make sure the world knows we appreciate them in a big way. So thank you so much. I'm not going to take too much time. I wanted to say a couple things. I played in the Raiders many, many years ago. Back for many of you guys when the Raiders used to win football games all the time. And there was something about the culture that they built that I see happening in our country today. And I want to thank you as I describe this culture, just know I'm talking about you. You see, we had a team that were basically, we call the second chance guys. If you're too old, too rambunctious, too crazy, too wild for any other NFL team, you're just right for the Raiders. And here's a couple of examples of the kind of names that we developed because of the reputation that we wanted to have as intimidators. We had Killer, the Ghost, Snake, the Assassin, Dr. Death, Mad Dog. And I finally got a reputation. My name was number 44. Here's the thing, though, guys. We felt as a team, particularly you win Super Bowl, you put your foot on the field, is now do everything you can to make sure you're not the weak link. That's what we felt that year. First time I ever felt that way, by the way. All the years I've played, I've never been in a culture that everybody was all in. That we started to begin to believe that we could finally get to the Super Bowl, and 1 week at a time we got there. Underdogs the entire way, but we got there because we committed to ourselves, committed to our team. We had guys like Ray Guy, who was a punter, kicked from their 10-yard line, our 10-yard line to theirs. We had a guy named Jim Plunkett. He looked like his helmet was always too tight, but he'd get in there and he'll get the ball, get it all done with. Guys like that showed up every single time. The key was to put our foot on the football field and we'll give everything we have. And at the end of the day, we end up winning a Super Bowl game. Let me tell you where we are today. We've been great Americans, building our dreams, building our memories, our businesses, and not knowing on the outside of this little freedom bubble, there was evil, pure evil. People who wanted to destroy our country, people who wanted to destroy our dreams. Then we have people like Kari Lake that stands up, you know what? I volunteer. I'll be part of the solution. I'll be there to come out of my comfort zone to make sure I'm speaking with courage to make a difference. Well, when you have enough people coming out off the sidelines, we have enough people thinking that this is something I have to do, I have to be part of this process, that's when the concept of just win baby comes up. We have a country right now that people are coming off the sidelines. I've never been more excited about our country than I am today because I'm seeing everywhere Americans are waking up, realizing that we have to come out of this little freedom bubble and fight for our country. Realizing this is it. This is it. This is where we fight. This is where we fight for our frontliners. This is where we fight for the families of those folks that get out and serve for us. This is where we have their back. This is it, my friends. So let me just make this big ask. We have 50, whatever amount of days is. This is the time to put everything on the field. This is the time to sprint and put everything you have. We should get to November 5th not only exhausted, but victorious, because our country deserves what we know we can have. I want us all to believe, and I cannot wait to work with Kari. Just imagine having a bigger majority in the House, the Senate, and a President Trump. This time next year, we have a whole different conversation. I want to just make this ask. Let's do everything we can, my friends. If your talent happens to be a person who walks in the room and a smile comes to everybody's face, use that talent. If your talent is knocking on doors, knock on as many doors as you can. Use that talent. If your talent is coming out of your pocket and giving, running businesses, use that talent. Now is our time that we need to be looking back. Years from now, we tell our kids, our grandkids, our great-grandkids, we were there. We were there when our country had to be pulled back. I was part of that process. We do that, my friends. We're going to be so proud of who we are this 2025. So let's get it done. I'm so excited about Kari being with us. I made sure that whatever we can do to make sure I was here tonight, because I want to let you guys know I'm all in. Whatever we can do. You guys have a remarkable leader here, a courageous leader. One other thing, guys like Rob, guys like John Voight, I tell you, it's called courage. They're willing to give up everything to come and do the right thing in our country. So thank you guys. Let's make it happen. Let's get it done, okay? Got to get it done. Just win, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb.
Thank you guys. I got to tell you, I love coming out here. I love you guys. I miss you guys. I do not miss politics. So I've been enjoying my pool. I've been enjoying my pickleball court. But I think that the time is so important. We all have to be involved, and I think that's why you're here tonight. So give yourselves a big round of applause, first of all. If you've ever heard me speak, I usually like to start off with a joke, but then my wife's like, listen, no jokes tonight. Rob Schneider's there. Let him do all the jokes. You're not a funny guy. So no jokes tonight from me. I want to take a second to, first of all, thank all of our first responders. We're here tonight to back the blue. You've heard from some of our great leaders in this profession. We got some guys back here. We lost a couple. We lost one guy, Officer Coolidge from Phoenix PD. Day later, I think Glendale had a shooting. Officer Haney also was injured. So please keep those families in your prayers. If you don't notice, in law enforcement, if you see this little black shroud on my badge, unfortunately, we wear those once an officer loses his life, and we wear it up until the day of the funeral. After the funeral, we take the shroud off. So anytime you see us wearing the shroud, that's not a good time for us in law enforcement. So please put your hands together for all of the men and women that put on the badge every day. How many of you remember when you were small where you were afraid there was monsters under your bed, right? Or monsters in the closet. You didn't want mom and dad to turn the light off. You didn't want to be alone. You got scared at night. You went in. You wanted dad to check out the closet, the bed. You wanted him to make sure there was no monsters in there. And dad always comes in and he says, look, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. The reality is, in this world, there are monsters. And much like what you probably have, you probably don't realize that because of the men and women that are willing to put on a badge every day and go out and show you that there's nothing in the closet or there's nothing in the bed, or at least we're telling you that because we're out there taking care of it. And I think that we oftentimes forget the peaceful nights that we sleep because of the men and women that put on the badge every day. And we have to have leaders in Washington, D.C. that are checking for monsters there too, right? We've got to have people like Kari Lake that are going to go back and make sure that, because frankly, I remember I was doing an interview with a gangbanger one time, and this guy had committed some crimes, and I'm sitting there, and he said, you know, Sheriff, you know who the real criminals are in this country? It's not us. We might hurt each other. We might sell drugs. We might do this. The real criminals are wearing the suits back in Washington, D.C. And oftentimes, I don't think he was wrong. I think that we've got a lot of problems in Washington, D.C. that need to be fixed. And we've got to send people that are capable of doing that. People that understand how important the rule of law is. You know, we've got a candidate who understands, who's supported law enforcement. As long as I've known Kari, she has supported law enforcement in this state and throughout the communities. Yeah, you can clap for that. We have another Senate candidate, Ruben Gallego, who's been the opposite. All right? He's actually promoted defunding police. He's actually promoted removing qualified immunity. Do you know what that is? Qualified immunity, they would have you believe, gives carte blanche for police officers to do whatever. That couldn't be further from the truth. Qualified immunity protects us in law enforcement when we go do our job. It protects us from being sued by every lawyer in town. And we need people that are going to protect qualified immunity. We've also got this candidate, Ruben Gallego, went out and marched with people holding defund the police signs and ACAB signs. You know what ACAB is? All cops are bastards. Do you guys believe that? No. Let me tell you, I work with police officers every day, and these are men and women who love their communities and do the job because they love this country, they love you, and they want to protect you, and they want to make sure that when you go to bed at night, you know there's no monsters under your bed or in your closet. With the rise in crime in this country, with the border being as insecure as it is, today I was actually down with two different people. In the morning, I was with ABC News and Telemundo. You can only imagine the questions. And frankly, she was very nice. We had a good ride along. We had a pursuit. We had a bail out. We had a guy jump out at the QT. They ran us all the way down to Tucson. Right at the top of Tucson, they bailed out. The guy, we caught him later, and he said, I wasn't in the car. We went and pulled the QT video. Sure enough, he was. He was the driver, but he had 3 illegals in the car. That's the type of stuff that's happening every day. So I had ABC in the morning. Then I had quite the opposite with Dr. Phil. We were out with Dr. Phil today. And let me tell you, somebody who loves law enforcement, somebody who is fighting to share the message that this border crisis transcends politics, and it is an issue that needs to be fixed here in America. And we need people that are going to go back to Washington, D.C., that understand it and that will fix it and that have the courage to do so. And I think that person here in Arizona is going to be Kari Lake. You know, one quick thing about officers, just so you know, the average police officer in their career will experience 400 to 700 traumatic incidents in their career. The average citizen experiences 2 to 4. That's the difference of what they do. I think the only other profession that might get close to what police go through are people in politics. I think that's about the only other profession where we have traumatic experiences every day. But we do it because we love you. We do it in law enforcement because we love you, because we want a better America, safer America, less government, more freedom, less taxes, secure borders, all of those things. That's what we fight for every day. I'm going to tell you one quick story. This is a story of a Revolutionary War hero by the name of Nancy Hart. She was a little bit different stature-wise than Kari. She was over 6 feet, big woman, had red hair, and she used to go undercover and be in the English, and she would take the English out. Well, one day she's sitting in her home, and in walk six English, and they want to question her about some of the other Americans out there. And then they insist that she make them dinner. Well, unlike what she normally was like, Nancy Hart decides to make them dinner. As she's making them dinner and giving them food, they slowly take all the guns. She starts handing them through this hole to her 12-year-old daughter. By the time the English realize it, they don't have any weapons on them. So she says, hold it right there. I'm holding you. You're my prisoners now. One of them decided to get a little squirrely, and Nancy Hart pulls up the rifle and shoots him dead and wounds another one. She ended up holding those other 4 until the American soldiers were able to come. They determined that they needed to be hung, which they did. The Indians used to call that woman Wahachi, war woman. We need in Arizona a Wahachi. We need a war woman that will go back to D.C. and wage war on big government and their failure to put the American people first and America first. So it is my honor to introduce to you, hopefully your next Wahachi, your next war woman, and your next senator of the great state of Arizona, Kari Lake.
An amazing group of people that we've had up here. Marks, Sheriff Lamb, thank you so much. Love that man. What a great family. We're so honored to have you. Thank you, Mark, for being here. We appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. I think this little corner of Chandler right now, Chandler, Arizona, is the safest place in the world right now. I've never felt more, I'm not armed. Sometimes I am, by the way, so watch out. And I never felt more safe right now. We've got police officers here, sheriff's deputies, we have sheriffs, border patrol, we've got the Rangers here. Let's hear it from the Rangers. We have truly, truly some of the bravest men and women in the entire country here tonight. Thank you for being here. How many current or former members of law enforcement do we have? Let's hear it. Put your hand up and shout. All right. And we have a few. Do we have some? I'm hearing some shouts coming from over here. And over there, they were smart. They were in the air conditioning, guys. Thank you so much. These are the real life heroes. These are the true heroes in our society, and we thank you so much. Law enforcement. There we go. I actually want to look at you guys because I know I can't even imagine the worry. I want to take a moment to thank the folks who know and love somebody in law enforcement. Whether it's your husband, your wife, your child, your mom, maybe it's your dad or your brother or sister, you worry every single day, and every single time your loved one goes out to work, you have to worry and wonder what kind of sacrifice they'll make. And you thank God every night they come home, every shift they come home from. So I want to let you know that we are praying for you as well. You're in our hearts as well. And when they do come home, do you breathe a little sigh of relief? Right? When your husband comes home, when your brother comes home, you just say, especially in the world we're living in now, which is so dangerous, you just breathe a sigh of relief and then you can finally sleep again. Unfortunately, though, not everybody gets that sigh of relief. Too often, our communities are struck with immense pain and heartache like we have been when our heroes are fallen in the line of duty. And we lost a member of law enforcement this week. Zane Coolidge was shot in the line of duty. His partner survived. A career criminal took a hero from us. Literally, I hate to say this, but I don't hate to say it. Scum of the earth, who shouldn't even be walking the streets, he should be locked up already, took a hero from us and nearly took 2 heroes from us. And we're sick to death of it. We're sick to death of these criminals walking the street, running around, being free out there to shoot at our officers and leave children without a father and leave wives without a husband to raise those children. We're sick and tired of it, and we're ready for a big change. How many of you want to lock these criminals up and throw away the key? I do. We've just simply lost too many heroes. We never forget them. We never forget their sacrifice. Earlier, I mentioned the sacrifice made by the families of law enforcement, and with us tonight is an incredible woman. Her name is Karen Atkinson. Karen, stand up, please. Where are you, Karen? There she is. This amazing woman. This beautiful woman was married to a Phoenix police officer. They had just given birth to their son, Jeremy. And like every other spouse of a member of law enforcement, Karen kissed her husband goodbye and sent him off to work one day. Little did she know that that was the last time she would see him alive. Karen lost her husband. Jeremy, that little baby, lost his father at the hands of an illegal alien drug trafficker. Mark died in the line of duty, and this didn't happen recently, by the way, guys. This happened back in 1999, 25 years ago. I remember that day vividly. I remember covering that story. I remember getting the word that we had an officer down, and we rushed to the news set to cover the story, not realizing all of the details behind it. 25 years ago, and we're still facing this problem today. One of Phoenix's finest was taken away from us by somebody that should have never been in this country in the first place. Never been here. Karen, I know that nothing can ever fill the void that Mark left behind, but you have my word that when I'm in the United States Senate, I will do everything in my power to secure that border and make sure every criminal, illegal alien is either locked up or kicked the hell out of this country. You know, we have criminals that have been let out of prisons in other countries. Imagine the most hardcore criminals we have in our prisons. We got some pretty hardcore prisons here. Imagine if we took all of the most hardcore criminals we had and deposited them into another country. That's exactly what's happening here. Venezuela, as much as I despise Maduro and I despise the communism that's taken over, he has emptied out his prisons and sent the most dangerous human beings in the whole world into our country to walk our streets. And Ruben Gallego and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, if he even knows what's going on, has given it the thumbs up and welcomed these people in. It's despicable. It's evil. Someone just said it's evil. It truly is evil. Until our amazing men and women in law enforcement put an end to it, hundreds of men homes burglarized by Chilean gang members who they call them the dinner time bandits, because actually they were smart enough to know not to break into Arizonans' homes while they're there because they may not make it out of that home. But they waited until mom left to go to the grocery store to pick up groceries, and they break into our homes. And they're breaking into some real fancy homes in Paradise Valley and Mesa, all over the state, all over Maricopa County. And they're robbing us blind. And it's being allowed to happen by people like Ruben Gallego and Kamala Harris, who opened up our borders and allowed these people in. President Trump would have never let that happen. President Trump would have never let that happen. We're so tired of it. How many of you are so ready for Election Day you wish it was today? Oh, I wish it were today. Got 2 more months. Hang in there with me. All right, just last year, Officer Denise Bruce Jones and her partner were on a domestic violence call when a criminal opened fire on them. She took a bullet, and I am very, very proud to tell you that after an intense recovery period, Officer Jones is still with us. She's right here in the audience today. Officer Jones, please stand up. Can you come up? Law enforcement deserves more than just the benefit of the doubt. I want the officer to come up and look how amazing. What a recovery. My gosh. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can you say a few words? No? I said, can you say a few words? She said, no. Just tell us how you're feeling.
Much better than when it happened, that's for sure.
The streets are dangerous out there, aren't they?
Yes.
Are they getting safer with a wide open border?
No, especially with reduced law enforcement. Because our numbers are being depleted, so it's not helping.
Who would want to join law enforcement right now when we have political leaders saying, let's defund the police? Why would somebody want to jump into that? I'm going to tell you, starting in January 25, we are going to fully fund the police. And we're going to fully staff the police. Thank you so much. We're so happy that you have recovered. Thank you. We're blessed to have you, Officer Jones. Thank you so much. When I'm in the United States Senate, I will support legislation that calls for the death penalty for any criminal who kills a police officer in the line of duty. If you're going to take out one of our heroes, we're going to take you out. We don't need you. And I want to send a message to law enforcement and their families. I've got your back because you've always had our back. Every day you go out there, whether you want to or not, whether it's a tough day for you, whether you have stuff happening in your own life, and you step out, you put that badge on, you put that vest on, you step out and you protect us. And you don't know what's coming up, what person you're going to pull over, what's going to happen. And we appreciate your bravery and courage every day. I want you to know that I will fight to protect qualified immunity. I think you heard one of our previous speakers mention that Ruben Gallego wants to get rid of qualified immunity. I think you guys all know what that means, but for people who are not involved in the world of law enforcement, that is absolutely shocking, that he would want to take that protection away from you. Basically what that means is when an officer goes out there and is trying to protect us and is in a moment where it's life or death, he's going to have to think and triple think and double think and wonder if he can even take his gun out of his holster to try to protect his life. Because if he makes a mistake, his life is ruined, his family's life is ruined, they take every single penny he's got, and he's destroyed. And what's happening right now with law enforcement is that many of our men and women in law enforcement are afraid to take their gun out of their holster when they should be actually shooting. They're so afraid of what could happen. Ruben Gallego wants to take qualified immunity away. I want to make sure we strengthen it and make sure that no city or municipality can ever take that protection away from police, ever. I will work to repeal the Social Security windfall elimination provision. Yep, the people clapping get what that means. You pay into Social Security, and you deserve the benefits of it. It's really simple. Private industry gets retirement and their full Social Security, so why shouldn't those who are willing to risk it all get that benefit as well? I know that, as many of you know, our Phoenix Police Department is under attack by a weaponized DOJ. Sheriff Joe, you know what I'm talking about. They came after you, they came after your department. They're attempting to impose a consent decree, which is nothing short of a federal takeover of our local law enforcement. I will not stand for that. And I know President Trump won't stand for it either. After sitting by for years, by the way, let me remind you, Ruben Gallego has been in Congress for 10 years. He's done zero to support our police, but he's done a whole lot of things to undermine our police. He's done nothing to help. My opponent, Ruben Gallego, finally, in the last couple weeks, wrote a strongly worded letter feigning concern over the issue of the DOJ trying to take over our local police department, simply because an election, as many of you know, is just a couple of months away. Ruben, I don't know if you're out there and if you're listening, but if you truly cared about our police, you would have done this years ago. Save us the lies. We understand what's going on. No one's falling for it. We understand what's happening. We've all seen your commercials. You're not that good of an actor, frankly. He's got to work on his acting skills, frankly. So in the U.S. Senate, not only will I do everything in my power to stop this DOJ takeover of Phoenix, but I will end the consent decree that is currently having a debilitating impact on the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. We don't want our Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, our Phoenix PD, being run by the federal government. We want the federal government out of our lives and out of our law enforcement. Our Arizona officers are highly trained and do a great job. You know, it was about 3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to go and do a shoot or don't shoot training. How many officers here have had that training? Oh my gosh, that is hard. I know, I'm not a trained police on a Saturday. They put me through the rigors of the training. I'm happy to report I killed all the bad guys, but I literally, in one of the circumstances, it's so real life, I can't even explain it to you. It's, you know, I'm not somebody who plays video games. I'm not somebody who's done any of that kind of thing before. I care so deeply about people. I don't want anybody to get hurt. And they put me into a mass shooting situation. And I walked in, and I had my gun. It was an AR. And there are shooters everywhere. But you never know if they're really shooters, because they turn around, you think someone's a shooter, and they have a baby in their arms. And you realize, or they turn around and they've got a hostage in their arms. And you realize, and it's split second. There's not even time to react. You're ready to shoot somebody, and then you realize that's not a gun, that's a baby. And you could so easily make a mistake. I finished the training. I was shaking, I was crying, and the trainers said, "Oh my gosh, you actually did a really good job." I said, "Well, I don't think I'd be a good cop. They'd call me the crying cop because I'd be crying every day." What you guys have to deal with every day, the split-second decisions. What I realized is I love our law enforcement so much, I never thought my love and appreciation could grow. It grew tenfold that day. My husband and I have talked about it. He actually took video of me. I said, "Can we please get rid of that video, because I don't want anybody to see me crying as I'm trying to go through this, this training." It didn't look very, very strong, but it's so intense what our men and women in law enforcement go through every day. And then I was reminded as I came out of that after a situation like that, a mass shooting, a very traumatic situation, they don't get time to get good with their feelings. They have to sit there and immediately start doing interviews, filling out paperwork, and doing the additional work that law enforcement has to do. We cannot possibly appreciate these men and women enough. However much you love them, we can't love them enough. We got to love them even more. They need our support. It's intense. So Lastly, I will make sure that our law enforcement agencies have the equipment that is equal to the threat of the criminals and suspects that they're facing. You know what? These people that were these criminals on the streets, many of them are now associated with the cartels. It's really, really bad out there. These guys aren't just street level criminals. These are hardcore criminals. I want our officers and their families to know that I will do everything I can to ensure that they have every bit of equipment that they need and they're prepared for the fight that is on the streets. I want them to return home every night. Some of you might remember my days in the news media. Sheriff Joe was just talking to me and remembering about when I covered him at Tent City. Boy, we need Tent City, don't we? He said there was always an opening. There was always an opening. There was always room at Tent City. If you're going to commit a crime, we're never going to turn a criminal away. We're going to lock them up. And we need somebody who's tough on crime. I spent about 30 years reporting the news as a fair and honest journalist. I did a lot of reporting on the helpers. I got to talk to so many brave men and women in law enforcement over the years, covering stories of the crimes that they helped uncover, that they helped to investigate, and that were solved by their bravery. And many times in my experience as a journalist, I began to sour. And many times in my experience as a journalist, I began to sour on the way things are being covered. How many of you remember back? I don't even want to go back to the summer of 2020. They called it the summer of love. I called it the summer of insanity. When people were marching on the streets, remember, we couldn't be within 6 feet. When people were marching on the streets, remember, we couldn't be within 6 feet of a loved one without a mask on. Unless you were protesting and burning down and tipping over cop cars and protesting our police and burning buildings, then you could be up close with people, but not if you were just wanting to be with your family. The summer of 2020, my opponent, Ruben Gallego, actually went out to those protests against our police, these BLM protests against our police. He called them mostly peaceful protests, which was a total laugh, and said that the police were the bad guys. Ruben, you are the bad guy, okay? You are the bad guy. Our police are the good guys, and we're not going to let your acting in the last 2 months of an election sway this vote. We know who you are. We know you want to defund the police. We know you want to get rid of qualified immunity. We know you want our police to be weakened, and you want our streets to be unsafe. And by the way, you also want the border wide open. We're sick and tired of this politics. We're sick and Democrats, I'm sorry, trying to are going to save this country. So part of the reason I walked away from the news, I must admit, is that I was tired. I wasn't willing to be a propagandist. I saw during that time, thank you, 95% of the people in the mainstream media are raging liberal Democrats, raging. And while I was working with them, I would watch as they would cover a protest. They would call it a peaceful protest, and meanwhile you've got somebody trying to burn a building down or tip over a cop car. That didn't make sense to me, and I was sick of watching that. I was not willing to lie to the people of this state, so I stepped away. I wasn't willing to rip and tear down our police force as they were being attacked on the streets. So for every story, I know this, for every story of a bad cop, there's a million stories of a good cop. There's a million stories of a good cop. And the research actually shows that if you look at every profession, from the medical field to finance to law enforcement, if you look at every single profession, actually the level of professionalism and competence and good guys is in law enforcement. I think I saw the stats on it. It was like less than 1% of our police force are bad apples. You look at any other profession, it's much higher than that. We have incredible training, incredible bravery in our men and women in law enforcement. So I'd actually like to recognize one of my favorite cops. I don't think he knows I'm going to do this. One of my favorite police officers on the entire planet. Now, I have to say good things about him because he's the guy that is tasked with keeping me safe, and that's not easy. Scott Messino is the head of my security. How many of you have worked with Scott? Oh, that means you guys have stories for me, don't you? He is the head of my security team. He has become one of my best friends. He's actually become one of my husband's best friends. Sometimes they gang up on me. And sometimes I criticize him my backseat drive when I'm in the car with him, which he doesn't mind. He's actually a good driver. Scott, would you mind coming up here? This is a hero right here. I love this man, Scott Messino. Do you mind saying a few words? Okay, wait. Say a few words, but let's keep it cool.
I won't make me leave here in a few minutes. So. Wow, I was not expecting this at all. I had to take my earpiece out. The other guys I'm working with are giving me a hard time right now because what I do, we do behind the scenes, and we don't get up in front of the stage. And I'll tell you, it's a lot different standing off to the side than it is standing in front of the mic. As Kari said, my name's Scott Messino. I'm a 32-year law enforcement officer. I started with Phoenix PD. Thank you. I did 27 years with Phoenix PD. Then I was on President Trump's personal security detail when he was running in 2016. Thank you. Thank you. And then I was a federal agent at NASA. And now because I'm on the stage, I'm a current sheriff's deputy. I can't say which agency for Hatch Act violations, but I'll tell you I work for the best sheriff in America currently. I don't want to take that away from Sheriff Arpaio, but I work for the best sheriff that was just here, Mark Lamb. So a great guy. But you probably want to hear about Kari Lake. And so what she says up here is true. I drive Kari Lake around all the time when her husband Jeff isn't driving. And I recently took her to the airport, and a ticket agent said to me, while you were on the plane, gate agent said to me, "Is Kari Lake a nice person?" I said, "Yeah, Kari Lake's a nice person." And she was I could tell she wasn't on our side just at that point. She said, "Tell me how she's a nice person." I said, from a law enforcement perspective, when I drive Kari around and she sees an officer on the street doing a traffic stop, she'll ask me, "How is it that you guys get out of that car and do that and don't think about it?" And so we're trained well. I said, but that's not what bothers me as a police officer. What bothers me is when the complaint comes in about how my agency is going to handle it, the woke agencies we work for. Not my agency, other agencies. And then Kari looks at me, she says, well, let's say a prayer for that officer. So she'll stop and pray for an officer that doesn't even know her, hasn't even spoken to her. When she sees an officer on the street, just today at the airport again, we spent a lot of time at the airport. Today at the airport again, she spent about 20 minutes talking to a police officer just to greet him and see how he's doing. She cares about us. She cares about our qualified immunity. It's not a talking point for her. It's something she believes in. She talks about making sure that we're proud. We should be equal or wants to do away with that. He says we can't be a military organization. We're not, but I want to go home. My wife is here. She was a 20-year police officer with Phoenix PD. My father was a 20-year Phoenix police detective. My son was an MP in the Marine Corps. My uncle was a Phoenix police officer, so I have a story much like my good friend Tom Homan. We come from a long line of police officers. 80 years we've served in this state. And I was telling this ticket agent that, and just then I got a text message from
better. Now, I will say that like even the people that have come over from the border, from the Mexican border, illegal people coming over, they don't even, 2 months ago, they don't want new people coming over. They're like, I don't want somebody coming over here, try to take the job I just took. I just took it an hour ago. Please let me have it at least for a week. Well, the fact of the matter is, this is one of the states, the 7 battleground states. This does, because California is dangerous for public schools, for kids. You know, in the morning you drop off a girl, in the afternoon you pick up a boy, you know. We need a sane Arizona. We need to keep the state. And you're going to have to get out to vote. You're going to have to do it. And I just tell people all the time, there will be no Marines landing to save us. There will be no Marshall Plan to help us rebuild. There will be no food drop from Europe. We're it. This is it. This election is important. This state is important. Kari Lake being elected to the Senate matters. We have Richard Gallego suddenly cared about the border 10 hours ago because he realized what it really was okay, people, that's something to vote for. People will care about that. They didn't care for 3 years because they don't want to stop people from coming in. They want to turn America into what California is, a mess. If you look at the streets of Los Angeles and San Francisco, you would think, when I was there, it looks like Calcutta. And they want the same thing in every street because they want chaos. They want us at each other's throats. They want it so crazy for your life and your family that you're willing to give up your freedoms to just have some form of calm, to do away with your freedoms so that you don't have to deal with chaos. That's the plan, and that's what they're enacting. And if they're reelected in the White House, if they get the Senate, they're going to open it up again. And that's what they'll do. They don't care about your family. They only care about keeping power. And unfortunately, this guy Gallego, Richard Gallego, is the same thing. They're just part of a wheel. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris in the primaries. Suddenly, she's the candidate. The same people who said she's joyful and that she's a wonderful, incredible candidate are the same people 2 months ago who said this is the best version of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, sharp as a tack. And I will tell you that it is an improvement for the Democrats. Kamala Harris, I mean, she can blink. She knows how to walk off the stairs, up and down in heels. Very talented. She knows how to get off the stage, which is like Joe Biden's kryptonite. Joe Biden getting off the stage, it was always a panic for everybody. But for the people, they want to divide us. They want to continue to have us at our throats. And if you want to know Democrat or Republican, you have to know we need to do what's best for this country, and we need to turn things over. If Kamala had great ideas, she would have put them in the last 3.5 years. If the Democratic-controlled Senate had good ideas, they would have put them in the last 3.5 years, but they didn't. Anytime people get upset about and get at each other's throats about Democrat and Republicans, I just tell them this: whenever there's a natural disaster, the real quality of them decide what kind of family we want, what kind of community we want, what kind of state that we want. We want to keep this state free. This is the bulwark. If Arizona goes, so goes the nation. Now, we'll just tell people who get down about things that 30% during COVID tyranny went with it and were gung-ho about the COVID tyranny and did what the government said. 30% went along with it because it was easier. But 30% said, F you, it's my body, I'm not doing my family. And it was people in this state, and I said, I want to go fight with these people in Arizona. I'm not leaving Arizona. I'm staying here and I'm going to fight. This is it. 30% of Americans said, no, we're not doing it. Let me just tell you something. 30% during the Revolutionary War, 30% were with the Brits. 30% were ambivalent, but 30% of the colonists said, no, we want to start a new country. And those 30% won. And they beat the greatest power on earth, the greatest military power on earth, England at that time. Well, guess what? We got 30% in the United States already. We are not turning this over to a Marxist like Kamala Harris. She's a Marxist. She says things like this, equity. She says, okay, how much of your hard work and your money that you earned is somebody else's fair share? Your money, you keep it. The inflation, the 26% inflation that the Biden-Harris administration caused is theft. It is an unfair taxation on your families, and you all feel it. I felt it myself filling up gas on the way over here. And by the way, Chandler's got an amazing steakhouse right here, DC Steakhouse. They've got an amazing They got an amazing Indian food place too called Fargiga. I don't know what it is, but I know it's something very close to that. So, look, this is a great state. There are great people here. All along this state, I meet wonderful people. It is a beautiful state. I'm sorry that stupid golf tournament's going to start up, which is going to screw up traffic. I hate that. And I don't know who decided that construction should happen on every freeway all at the same time. I don't know who decided that. But I'm still willing to take it. I don't know why my wife has a flat tire every 3 weeks. I don't understand. I think the tire companies just walk around and throw nails out the windows at night on the roads. But this is a great, beautiful state with wonderful people. And this state is worth fighting for. And let me tell you, Kari Lake, when they attack you, when they viciously attack you, it's because God bless you, Kari, because you stand for something. You stand for the people of this state. Richard Gallego, they don't attack him because he's just a cog in the wheel. He will do whatever they tell him to do because all they want is to continue power, and they want to continue to degrade this country so that they never lose power again. Like Elon Musk said last week, this may be the last chance we get. This may be it, because if they keep flooding the cities like they want to do and busing people to Florida and busing them to different red states, which they do, flying them on your tax dollars, if they can do that for another 2 years, another 4 years, we're going to all be in a horrible place. This is the final stand. Arizona will decide the election. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, and come from a place of love. The one thing they don't have, the one thing the Democrats, they don't have, there's no fire, there's no real joy behind that. They don't have what we have. We love our country. We love this state. We love our family. We love our children. We know that this is a country indivisible under God for liberty and justice for all. Now go out there, vote for Kari Lake. God bless you. God bless this country. Thank you very much.
You're awesome. Thank you, Patriot. Rob Schneider, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who came out. Let's have a great night. Let's work hard the next 2 months. This is critical. Chase ballots, TP action.
You can do it. Vote for Kari Lake.
Thank you. Mwah. Love you. Go out there and chase ballots, tpaction.com. If you want to do something besides just vote, go chase ballots. We got a whole month. We vote for a whole month here. We got to get out and chase those ballots. We got something we can all do. And we've got to make sure that we get every friend to vote. No one sits this one out. It is a crime to sit this election out. There's too much on the line. I'm going to wrap it with this. Someday we're all going to be old, older than we are right now. And we're either going to be living in a free, prosperous, peaceful America, and our grandbabies and great-grandbabies are going to say, thank you, Granny, thank you, Grandpa, for all you did. Or they're going to look into our eyes and say, why didn't you fight harder? And I don't want our excuse to be, it got hard. It got tough. They tried to cancel me. I didn't want to spend the money. We had to put every damn thing on the line in the next 2 months to save this country. I know you're going to do it. Let's go out and save Arizona. Thank you so much. God bless every one of you. God bless State 48.
Say somebody been shot, somebody's been abused, somebody blew up a building, somebody stole a car, somebody got away, somebody didn't get too far, yeah, they didn't get too far.
Grandpappy told my pappy back in my day, son, a man had to answer for the wicked that he done. Take all the rope in Texas, find a tall oak tree, round up all of them bad boys, hang 'em high in the street. For all the people to see.
That justice is the one thing you should boys, you gotta draw a hard line.
When the gun smoke settles, we'll sing a victory tune, and we'll all meet back at the local saloon.
We'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, singing whiskey for my men, beer for my horses.